Incorporated and the Village of Glen Carbon zoning jurisdiction. So we are looking at a commercial strip shopping center to the west, Madison County Transit Bicycle Trail System, and Sam's. So some other pictures of the site to help you adjust and also know the property that we are talking about. This is the site as we would see it from Troy Road looking to the north. Also the side view looking from Troy Road to the east. You're seeing those drive-through lanes that are off there. Actually, that's not looking from Troy Road. That is actually looking internally from the parking lot. And this would be the view from Troy Road where you would see them exiting those drive-through lanes, looking west. And this is also the site from Troy Road looking south. So you have in front of you the previous site plan layout showing those 5 drive-through lanes and where the equipment sits, and that we do have stacking space for the 3 vehicles. So anytime we go through a special use permit, we're asked to answer multiple questions, and one of the first ones is the existing use and the zoning of the property in relationship to Edwardsville's comprehensive plan. And the parcel in question is zoned B2 commercial business district, and the proposed use is aligned with the adopted comprehensive plan. The extent to which the property value diminishes adjacent to the zone parcels, the value decrease is supplied by the petitioner and to be made by a professional appraiser. And as with most of these, we don't see property value information coming in, but we anticipate no change in nearby property values as a result of issuing the special use permit to the new owners in this instance. Question number 3, the extent to which the proposed change alters or promotes the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. And the proposed continued use will neither promote nor detract from the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Item number 4, the relative gain to the general public as compared to the hardship imposed upon the property owners and the need for the proposed special use. The special use permit would allow reuse of the existing 5 drive-through lanes in conformance with the B2 commercial business zoning district regulations, and also active reuse of the site. And the suitability of the subject property for the proposed uses indicated by the ordinance, it is suitable. The site was previously utilized as a financial facility until the winter of 2018 and has been vacant since. And I think at this point in time, before we get into that staff recommendation, we need to turn it back over to the board.
And we have representative for the petitioner. If you would come forward, please. State your name and address.
My name is Mike Ward with Bank of Hillsborough. I reside at 2217 Log Cabin Lane in Maryville, Illinois.
Okay. Right hand. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is truthful to the best of your knowledge.
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Cheryl covered a lot of the stuff. Really, that I was going to go over. Like she said, we're looking to reopen the financial institution that's at 2496 Troy Road. 4 of them are banking lanes. One's a drive-through ATM lane. We'll be vacating our spot down the road at 2200 Troy Road. We've entered into agreement to sell that to a local developer, and that will no longer be a bank building. So other than that, in the near future, we'll be applying for a building permit. We're adding a couple offices internally to the building, nothing to the exteriors changing. Basically, probably 2 to 3 weeks worth of work and some stuff mainly to the building, paint, new teller line, stuff like that. So,
Okay.
But any other questions or?
Any questions from the board? Hearing none. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And since there's no one else here, we do not have anyone else to speak either for or against, so we'll continue on with the staff report.
And so the recommendation is for approval of the special use permit for the 5 drive-through lanes to be reutilized authorized by the Bank of Hillsborough.
Comments, questions from the board?
So generally, there's really no change other than the fact that if I looked at this, it was like winter of 2018.
Correct.
And it's continuation without any material changes.
Correct.
I don't see a problem with it.
And there was no record of ever having any issues with the drive-through previously, or we brought that far, so.
No, and in fact, if there were ever stacking that occurs on this beyond their own site, it is occurring internally on the Home Depot property and also the drive aisles in. It's certainly not backing up out onto Troy Road. So at this point in time, and that was one of the things that was discussed early on with this development back when it was originally being done. There are only two access points. One comes off of Troy Road and the other one comes off of Goshen Road, and the outlet has only access through that stub that comes back up from Home Depot back on out to 157, or 159, I'm sorry. Troy Road, it's not even 159 there.
One other question.
Mhm.
Maybe this was part of the original agreement that expired or was to be reviewed again in winter of 2018. Was that the situation?
No, currently the zoning ordinance requires anytime we have a special use permit for anything, it cannot automatically be transferred to a new property owner, a new business owner, even though it's a bank to a bank or a drive-through restaurant to a drive-through restaurant. The current ordinance has that provision that they are not transferable. And I believe that that's something that realistically we've been talking about internally, and I would expect that we will have some kind of a change possibly coming forth that we will at least let you know that that's going to be on the table.
I guess the question I had was, it had expired or whatever in winter 2018. So I didn't know if that was part of the original.
Only because of the change in ownership.
It's
Yeah,
just the
potentially
change in
closed.
ownership because it was
Oh,
previously
okay.
Commerce Bank, and
Right.
Commerce Bank vacated the site in,
And they had that.
that's
certain
correct.
period. Okay,
That is correct.
good.
So it's a
Anyway,
new, it's a different bank going in.
Thank you.
Anyone coming in would have had to come
Mhm.
forward.
To the owner of the
Yes.
property, not to the
Okay,
building.
thank you.
Any other comments, questions? What is the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve the special use permit to allow the use of the existing 5 drive-through lanes for a bank at 2496 Troy Road.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments, questions, discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Hutz,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Butts,
Yes.
Pearsall,
Yes.
McCaskill.
Yes.
Thank you. You're in business. Good luck.
Thank you.
Get it open. Any old business?
We have no old business for you,
No old business? New business?
no new business.
Next meeting?
You do have a meeting next month. We do
Okay.
have a case that we are currently working on.
Okay. So, and
Thank
if
you.
all else is in place, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, and carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to call to order the August 26, 2019 District 7 Board of Education meeting. Carrie, would you please call the roll?
Delariva.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Pitts.
Present.
Brumback.
Here.
McDowell.
Present.
Robertson.
Here.
Bertles.
I'd like to welcome our visitors and guests to tonight's school board meeting. At this time, the board sets aside time for anyone wishing to address the board.
I really don't want to make a habit of this. Not hearing myself talk, but anyway, John Raymond, Edwardsville, Illinois. I looked at the article in the paper about transparency that you were talking about. And I've had the opportunity to talk with the superintendent of business. He's very transparent. I just want to commend him for that. He returns phone calls. A little slow, but getting better. And I just want to say that transparency under a new regime, I think, will be good for the taxpayers and the students and getting people involved. I'm trying to get people to come to these board meetings. And they all keep asking me, why do our taxes keep going up? You need to come to the board meeting to find out why you pay taxes. But anyway, thank you very much.
At this time, the board will move to routine matters. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the August 12th, 2019 meeting?
So move. Second.
Carrie, will you please call the roll?
Yes.
Delariva.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Brumback.
Yes.
McDowell.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Bertles.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes? Nope. It's your turn.
Yeah.
Yep, you go on to reports.
Okay. Can I have reports from personnel?
Tonight we met, and we approved some termination. We approved some resignations from classified employees, and we also approved hiring of 8 classified staff members. We accepted a paid and unpaid leave, and we approved hiring of 2 certified teachers, and we had some exempt resignations, but we also approved several substitute teachers, but we've seen that we do have some more classified resignations than we do hirings, and so we are short on assistants, monitors, and cafeteria workers.
Thank you, Dr. Olson. Deb, can you give us a brief overview of facilities, please?
Hey, the Facilities Committee met earlier this evening, and that we had discussions and approve of the facilities lightening project, also discussion of potential 2020 summer facility projects, and approval of the August 1st, 2019 Facilities Committee meetings.
Thank you, Deborah. Terry, Finance?
We met this evening and we discussed the year-end fund balance report for 2018-2019. So originally we had projected a negative $1.9 million in the ed fund, and we ended the year instead with a negative 400. So we saw a significant improvement in that. We discussed the 2019-2020 tentative budget, which looks extremely positive. We're seeing new revenue. We are projecting a positive balance in the ed fund. We need to keep an eye on expenditures because we know we're anticipating for the coming year about 2.3 to 2.4 million in additional expenditures for this year. So we're keeping a watchful eye on that as well. We also have to recognize that our operations and maintenance fund, while it is it's significant right now, but we also have a health life safety report and a list of repairs from that that we need to, as Deb mentioned in facilities, that we need to anticipate for the coming year. I'm very thankful because I think we're seeing the effects of Proposition E really take a positive turn for us this year, and the budget reflects that. So I just would like to say that I think our consistent and cautious stewardship from Mr. Courtney, from Dr. Andre, from Dr. Henderson are part of that, as well as the support and commitment of the employees of the school district, and then beyond that, the members of our community who have supported education so diligently and dedicatedly. And that wraps it up for me.
Thank you, Terry. At this time, Dr. Henderson will provide the superintendent's report.
And I do have a few items just to brief the board on. The first area that I wanted to talk about is some of the CTE opportunities that we've had and that we're hoping to add in the future. Well, first of all, I'll brief you on the apprenticeship program. Obviously, the apprenticeship program's up and running. I wanted to, again, thank the EEA for helping us to get that done, because we ended up with more students from Edwardsville, from District 7, than what we thought we were going to have, but the program wouldn't have run without us being able to send upwards of 16 students into that program. So it's definitely a sign that we had that many that wanted to take part in this program, and so far so good. We've had our assistant principal, Paul Stewart, headed over last week to visit, and I plan to go out there and check it out very soon as well. But all indications are it's being very positively received by the students at this time. So that's the first thing. The second thing was on Friday. I toured the Collinsville Area Vocational Center with the principal of that building and the superintendent. And it's one of those things, you're probably familiar with the program, but it's probably the most extensive CTE program in our area, and many schools send students to that program. Of course, there is a cost of approximately, I think, $2,500 per student to send them over into that program. But they have a variety of different areas. Even schools that have existing CTE programs that are more robust might not have, you can't do everything. You don't have a program in everything. And so an example of something that Collinsville has is auto. And very few, if any, other schools have that. So there are some potential opportunities for our students as far as the CAVC. So we'll be talking about that in the upcoming months, looking at it as, budgetary, how that will fit, and talking with the EEA as well about those issues as well. But I'm excited about the potential that it offers for our students. You have any questions on that? There'll be a lot more information in the coming months on that. And then finally is another sort of partnership that's on the horizon. Is I'm going to be meeting with Local 520, which is the operating engineers, which is a different trade union, who have expressed an interest in partnering in some way with area districts, including District 7. Really, District 7 and Collinsville are the two that they've reached out to. And so we'll see. We'll see where that goes as well. I mean, in a perfect world, we'd be able to offer these opportunities within district, and hopefully someday we can. But in the time being, we need to develop these partnerships and make sure we can get opportunities for our students whenever we can. And so we're moving forward, and hopefully within the upcoming year or two, we'll be able to offer even more opportunities for our students. So any questions on CTE and where we're kind of moving? I know it's an important issue to everyone on the board.
I just think it's great in just a few months, really, that these programs have already made themselves available, and it sounds like there are more opportunities on the horizon. So I think there'll be a lot of interest both from institutions that want to partner to help enrich our students, but also obviously with the students who want to participate. So I think the future looks good for that program.
Okay, the second thing I wanted to report on is the recognition for staff and students that we talked about. We met with a group of administrators to talk about what those might look like. And so just to kind of give you a brief summary of what we're planning on doing, and then today as principals, we got together and we talked even a little bit more. Every building's going to have their own unique little features that they're going to do, but just to kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about. For the staff, what we've decided is the recognition's, of course, going to take place at the building level. It's going to be an award. They're nominated by a peer. It doesn't have to be just a teacher. It can be any staff member nominated by the peer. It's going to be announced at a meeting where that nomination will be read aloud in some form, usually probably just at a monthly staff meeting. We're going to put it on social media. We're going to have within each building a trophy that travels around to the various staff member that's got that, whether it's kind of going to be called we're thinking right now it's going to be called the Star Employee of the Month. And some buildings might have two, depending on if they have a bigger staff. We might have two of those at one time. We're going to try to get some local businesses to donate some gift cards. So we're working on that because we'd like to have a variety of just $10 gift cards to give out to our teachers as well when they win this. We're going to have a certificate, and then each school, again, as I said, is kind of going to individualize it to themselves. I know that, for instance, at the high school, they were talking about creating a parking spot right up front for that employee of the month, sort of employee of the month. So everyone's going to do something a little bit different, but we're wanting to make it just to be meaningful for the staff and something that's nice. And so the ideas for the staff. For the students, we're still going to kind of keep that theme of do the right thing, in that we're looking for kids that are choosing to do the right thing within their schools. We're still going to call it, though, probably the Star Student of the Month, and with just a do the right thing theme. It's going to be nominated by a teacher or a staff member. And what we're going to do is to make sure that we've got the parents, we're going to have a personal phone call to the parents to talk about why they were nominated for that award. They're going to be recognized for different at every level. At elementary, it'll be at the morning meetings. We're still determining where they're going to recognize them at the high school level, whether it's going to be just over the announcements or it's going to be something where they are at an assembly. They don't have quite as many times they get together with all the high school students. So it can look a little bit different. We're going to have yard signs that are going to go in that, with parent permission, of course, are going to go into the yards for the month that they are that student of the month. And if someone doesn't have a yard, we'll give them the sign to put in their window, whatever they'd like, if they want it. They don't have to take that, but that's something that, as we talked with another district, is very popular, especially with the younger kids. So we're going to have that going on. We're going to have a certificate that will go to all the students as well. Again, we're just trying to come up with ways to make it a little bit more meaningful, and we think it'll be neat, especially at the elementary and middle level, where you get the kids together and they can announce those awards in front of their peers. So going along with that, as a board, we'll let you know when those events are going to take place. If sometime during the year you'd like to see a certain school, we certainly know that you can't come to every event every month, but we'll let you know when those are going to happen, and if you are interested in coming and seeing one, that'd certainly be great. So any questions on recognition? Okay. Last meeting I talked about the beginnings of a committee which we're kind of calling our strategic planning committee, although it's not really going to be as detailed as that, in that really it's ultimately going to be the board that sets our goals, but we kind of want to get a starting point. We really don't have a starting point right now. And so within the next couple weeks, with the start of school, I really wasn't able to do much in the last 2 weeks, but I have talked with administration, of course the board. I talked today to the EEA, and next week I plan to talk to the CAC as well about trying to get people on this committee. The problem is I really don't want it to be huge. I don't want it to be a committee of 30. Ideally, at first I thought 12, but that's looking to be impossible to be that small. It's going to have to be a little bit bigger than that, most likely. But we're just wanting to get good representation of administrators and teachers and a couple of board members, as I said, and some community members. And then just get us started on this sort of visioning process and moving forward. And eventually, we'll have meetings where all board members are involved, very early in the process, but we just want to kind of get ourselves started with this. So by the next time we have a meeting, I hope to be able to report that we've got hopefully the committee pretty much formed, and we're talking about our first meeting or two. So I just wanted you to know that that's in the works, but we just haven't got that started yet, but that's something in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, that we are going to get started. Questions on that? Okay. Then two other one really quick one. I had a board member ask about this, about the transportation app for parents. There's been talk that parents will eventually have on their phone an app that lets them track the buses with GPS, and so they'll know if the buses are coming or they're late or if they're late picking up. And so that is something that's in the works. And in fact, after Labor Day, we're planning on piloting it with 2 schools. We don't know which ones yet, but we don't want to roll it out to everyone until we make sure that we've got it working. So very soon, we're going to try it with a couple of schools, see how it works, and then with the idea that soon we'll roll that out to everybody. So if you get asked about that, just know that it is coming. We just haven't gotten it yet, but after Labor Day, we're planning on rolling that out and piloting a little bit. Okay? And then finally, with our change over to board docs, one of the things that we said that we would do is that we would ask the principals to provide building reports. Dr. Cramsey, I know at the high school, has been providing one the last couple of meetings, and I know you guys have expressed how much you've liked those. Beginning in September, the principal of every building is going to produce a building report. We're going to do it monthly, though. So what I think we're going to do is that we're going to have half of them do it on the first meeting of the month and half of them do it at the second. That way you'll just have 6 instead of having 13 to read at one time. We'll mix it up a little bit. So, and if the high school has extra things going on, which they might actually give one twice a month. It just kind of is going to depend on what's going on, because it's a little bit easier. They've got more things, more events kind of going on. But hopefully this will satisfy you guys' needs to kind of know what's going on in the schools. So we talked a little bit today at our meeting about some of the things to put into those reports. I think you'll like them. I think it'll give you a good idea what's going on. Also, they'll list some of the other things I think that you'll be interested in. But if there's anything in particular that you want, let me know. So next month, because we won't be in board docs until at the earliest the end of October, because of our training cannot be provided until the October 22nd. For next month, we'll actually have them hard copy for you in PDF, but eventually what's going to be so nice is that the principals will just be able to upload those onto the site. So really, we'll get a practice this next month, but really October is when it'll really kick off when we get our board docs underway. So if you have any questions, anything else for me? Okay, that's all I've got.
At this time, the board will move to action considerations, discussion items, and information items. Dr. Spina, approval of personnel.
Thank you, Mrs. Robertson. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve personnel action items under Roman numeral 2, which were approved earlier by the Personnel Committee.
For approval.
Second?
Carrie, will you please call the roll?
McDowell?
Yes.
Delariva?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Pitts?
Yes.
Brumback?
Yes.
Robertson?
Yes.
Bertles?
Approval of August bills. Mr. Courtney?
Thank you, Mrs. Robinson. I ask the board to approve the bills through August 26, 2019 in the amount of $1,091,119.27.
Here a sec. Motion to approve.
Second.
Carrie, will you please call the roll?
Robertson?
Yes.
Pitts?
Yes.
Delariva?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Brumback?
Yes.
McDowell?
Yes.
Bertles?
Approval of the 2019, 2020, and 2020-21 dental insurance. Mr. Courtney?
Thank you, Mrs. Robertson. I ask the board to approve the offering of a dental insurance plan for the period beginning October 1, 2019 and ending September 30, 2021 with Delta Dental. The premium rates offered by Delta Dental will increase 5% for 2019-2020 plan year and remain unchanged for the 2021 plan year. And as a reminder, this is a voluntary plan where the employees pay the premiums on their own.
So moved.
Second?
Carrie, will you please call the roll?
Pitts?
Yes.
Delariva?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Brumback?
Yes.
McDowell?
Yes.
Robertson?
Yes.
Bertles?
Approval of the 2019-2020 food service pizza vendor bid. Mr. Courtney?
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. I ask the board to approve the Little Caesars bid for food service pizza vendor for the 2019-2020 school year.
Move for approval.
Second.
Carrie, will you please call the roll?
Della Riva,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Pitts,
Yes.
Rumback,
Yes.
McDowell,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Bertles.
Approval of bid authorizing health life safety repairs at Woodland Elementary. Mr. Courtney?
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the bid from Tyson Krupp Elevator Corporation authorizing health life safety repair at elementary school in the amount of $75,691. And as background, the current elevator at Woodland Elementary School is approaching 40 years old. While the elevator is operational today, the parts necessary to maintain the hydraulic system and elevator are now obsolete. The district has received a bid to modernize the elevator equipment, including improving fire and life safety features. Due to the length of time needed to engineer and fabricate the system, we're requesting approval of the bid so that installation can occur immediately after the completion of the 1920 school year or sooner if necessary. And again, the proposed repair will come from the Health Life Safety Fund and was discussed and approved by the Facilities Committee at its August 1st, 2019 meeting.
So move.
Second.
Carrie, please call the roll.
Rumback,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Della Riva,
Yes.
Pitts,
Yes.
McDowell,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Bertles.
Approval of resolution authorizing the sale of interest in real property. Dr. Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. In April 2014, the Board of Education approved the purchase of real property formerly owned by the First Presbyterian Church and located across from Columbus Elementary School between 223 and 237 North Kansas Street. This property was used as a manse when owned by the church, but can also serve as a residential home. The district has determined that the real property located at 223 North Kansas Street is unnecessary for the uses of the district. The district is proposing to sell the aforesaid property and improvements by accepting sealed bids after first giving notice of the time, place, and terms of such sale by notice published once each week for 3 successive weeks prior to the bid acceptance date in the newspaper published and having general circulation in Madison County, Illinois, the Intelligencer. So it is recommended that the Board of Education approve a resolution authorizing the sale of interest in real property located at 223 North Kansas Street, Edwardsville, Illinois, 62025, and publish notice of public sale via sealed bid.
So move.
Second.
Carrie, please call the roll, unless there's discussion first.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, Dave, could you kind of walk us through what you think the process of is going to be? So you're going to have advertise it for sale and then provide an opportunity?
Yeah, we'll have, after Labor Day, we will pick a date and run ad the same day for 3 consecutive weeks. Then in the interim period between last week of the publication and the actual receipt of the sealed bid, we'll have I'll call it viewing opportunity for a few hours, somewhere in that in-between period, so that individuals can go look at the property before the sealed bids are accepted. I'm hoping that the whole process is done by the 1st of October.
And then will you provide a form or a contract?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And this is just the parcel with the residents on it? This is not the green space
It's lot
whatsoever?
5 and 6, which is the house and the little parcel that's got the walkway kind of next to it that goes to the garage and things like that. So,
Are you going to require a down payment?
yeah,
with
it's in
sealed
the
bid?
resolution. I think it's a 10%. 10% of the bid, sealed bid, will be considered earnest down payment for the property. I think that's how it's written.
And it's unusable per ADA, correct, at this point in time for the district?
The school district would have to do significant health, life, safety repairs or ADA repairs in order to make it functionable as a property the school district could use. Mm-hmm. And it was originally part of, it was originally part of the plan to tear it down when the church was torn down. But we decided not to do that after talking to residents of the neighborhood and things like that, that we didn't need to tear the manse down because the opportunity that we would have for what we were going to use it for was really not impacted by whether the manse stayed or not. So we decided to keep it as part of the sale. It was always part of the sale, but we decided not to tear it down. When the church tore down the church, we asked them to leave it, so exit the decision to either sell or use it, but
Olson,
Yes.
McDowell,
Yes.
Delariva,
Yes.
Pitts,
Yes.
Brumback,
Abstain.
Robertson,
Yes.
Bertles.
Approval of disposal of verbatim recordings from the Board of Education's closed session meetings held from December 18th, 2017 through December 26th, 2018. Dr. Henderson.
Thank you, Mrs. Robertson. Verbatim recordings may be disposed of without notification or approval of the Local Records Commission or the State Archivist under the Local Records Act or the State Records Act no less than 18 months after the date of the closed session meeting. However, the board must approve the disposal of the particular recording and must approve the minutes of the closed session that meets with written minute requirements of the Open Meetings Act. Since the Board of Education has already approved the minutes from these meetings as is required by law, it is recommended that the Board of Education authorize the disposal of the verbatim recording from the board's closed session meetings held from December 18, 2017 through February 26, 2018.
This completes all action of the board for the August 26th discussion. Sorry, I'm losing it. Just kidding. Move for approval. I'll do that.
Second.
Carrie, will you please call the roll?
Robertson,
Yes.
Brumback,
Yes.
Delariva,
Yes.
Olson, Pitts,
Yes.
McDowell,
Yes.
Bertles.
This really completes all action of the board for the August 26, 2019 meeting. Is there other business to come before the board? Are there any brief questions from the public to come before the board? Or any announcements or questions from the board members? Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second?
All in favor? Say
Aye.
aye.
I'd like to call the City Council meeting for September 3rd, 2019 to order, and I ask that we all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Deputy Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Stack.
Present.
Mr. Burns.
Present.
Mr. Rizzity.
Present.
Mr. Morrison.
Present.
Mr. Kraus.
Present.
Mr. Farrar.
He is just outside the room. He will be present.
Mr. Lauer.
Excuse.
And Mayor.
Present. Thank you. Again, I'd like to welcome all of you here. We have a nice crowd this evening. Looking forward to hearing the presentation by Beautification and Tree Commission, as well as those that are watching at home. So we have a big audience this evening. The first thing that we do is we allow citizens to address the council, and just to kind of go over some of the rules that we have in place to keep everything flowing smoothly and keeping the order of the meeting. As a presiding officer, I have the opportunity to add more speakers. Typically, we limit the speakers for a topic to 3 and against a particular topic to 3. If you have additional items tonight, if someone has spoken on your topic, but you believe that you can add some details or some perspectives, I think we will allow that to be done this evening. Those comments are to be limited to 3 minutes, and it's to be questions or comments on city business only. No personal attacks or grievances will be allowed, and your should be directed to me as the presiding officer, so we don't allow interaction and back and forth with aldermen and questioning of aldermen. And, just straight behavior, no interrupting the speakers, no name calling, no offensive or language. And, we appreciate you being here, and we want to keep the discussion civil and to the point. So that's just some of the rules that we'll have this evening. So again, we have 7 or 8 speakers this evening. I'd ask for you to come to the podium, and you'll state your name and your address, and then you're able to speak for 3 minutes, and we'll keep that time. I'll give you a gavel at about 15 seconds remaining, so that you know to wrap things up as quickly as possible. All right. So first citizen wishing to address the council is Mr. Paul Pitts.
I'm a retired soldier, so I will follow the commander's orders. Mayor Patton, honorable council members, and fellow citizens. My name is Paul Pitts. I live at 2502 Hunters Point Boulevard here in Edwardsville, Illinois. And I am here to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance prohibiting the opening of a recreational cannabis dispensing center in our town. While I am aware of the windfall revenues the city stands to gain, I am also aware of the downside of having recreational and other drugs so readily available in our community, some of which include abuses, addiction, and probably an increase in crime. Additionally, as I speak this evening, the negative effects of vaping is being discussed in our own state and across the nation. Finally, I am remindful of the words of Solomon found in the book of Ecclesiastes. There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the sun. But I say to my fellow citizens and the council, this is not the time, and Edwardsville is not the place for a recreational cannabis center. Mr. Mayor, council members, this matter and issue is in your hands, and I hope you make the right decision to support this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Second individual wishing to present this evening is Debbie Meadows McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and it's nice to see the alderman. My name's Debbie Meadows McGuire. My address is 216 North Buchanan Street. I'm opposed to the ordinance that is opposed to allowing commercial sales of recreational marijuana in Edwardsville. I have to disagree with my friend Mr. Pitts about the risks of increased crime. I just don't think that that'll be the case. I've been to two other cities. One is Amsterdam, one is Denver, Colorado. And on main streets in both of those places, there are dispensaries. You don't even know it's a dispensary in Denver. It might as well be a bookstore or some other kind of card shop. And they don't have an increase in crime. They have an ordinance against using it in public, which I assume that we would. But some of us are old enough to have been fighting this battle for 50 years plus. And I think it's just all been said and done, and it's time to go ahead and do it. I don't think it's going to ruin our city. We're a progressive city. I think otherwise, people have told me they'll just drive to Alton, they'll drive to Collinsville, and that's money we're not going to have in our revenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Next speaker this evening is Karen Zimmerman.
Hi there, my name is Karen Zimmerman. I'm not speaking on the same topic as most folks here. I live at 6633 Foxview Drive, Edwardsville, Illinois. Many of you know me. I'm very active with city events, but many of you don't really know my background. I was a commissioned officer in the United States Air Force, where I was responsible for a lot of program and project management. I was formally trained in one of the best universities in the United States Air Force Institute of Technology, where I got a master's degree in systems management. I've been formally trained in program and project management, and one of my last assignments was not with the military. I've also worked in industry and government contracting. I was a director at a Fortune 100 company, one of the largest systems integrators in the world. So I have a little bit of background in the topic I'm going to talk about. During public comment in last week's Finance and ACS committees, I've raised issues associated with the proposed resolution and redevelopment agreement between the city and North Main Street properties. I subsequently submitted a synopsis citing city ordinance and state statute, which I'm sure by now you've all received and reviewed. What you're being asked to vote on and subsequently implement by resolution is an agreement for upwards of approximately $500,000. That's the best estimate I can make because there are no details, okay? There's no details in the redevelopment project. There's no details in the redevelopment resolution. For payments, and these payments are not included in the itemized list of authorized expenditures listed in ordinance number 5735-3-08 dated March 2005 and the various redevelopment projects and plans. Now, to go ahead and do these expenditures lawfully, the city is required by Division 74.4 Tax Increment Allocation Redevelopment Act to amend the plan, give notice, convene a joint review board, conduct a public hearing, and adopt the amended redevelopment plan and project through the city's ordinance process. This makes it fair for everyone. Kind of have a deal for that, having served and seen firsthand those who gave all. Failure to comply with the act compromises the city clerk. She'll be put in the predicament of transferring funds unlawfully to North Main Street properties. Failure to comply with the act compromises the TIF administrator and mayor and that they're required to submit an annual report to the state comptroller and the overlapping taxing districts attesting to and certifying that the city has complied with the Tax Increment Allocation Redevelopment Act. Failure to comply with the act also takes away funding from the currently unfinished tasks that comprise the North Main Street redevelopment project. These tasks include implementing a building rehabilitation and facade grant program that includes the residential structures, the relocation of overhead utilities, and road improvements. It's real hard to figure out what's been done and what hasn't because the 10-year status report, you can't figure out what the status is. Failure to comply with the act, and this is really the big one right here that I think y'all should consider the most. It compromises North Main Street properties and the Fowlers, and they are trying to do good things for North Main, and I know how frustrated they are. So in closing, if the city authorities feel that the North Main redevelopment plan needs to change to reflect something other than what's in the plan and the project, then do a replanning exercise, amend it so that everybody can have an opportunity to participate in the redevelopment and the revitalization of North Main Street. Let's just do it straight out front. Let's not look for loopholes. Let's just do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker this evening is John McGuire.
Good evening. I'm sorry. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members. My name is John McGuire. I live at 216 North Buchanan Street here in Edwardsville, Illinois. I'm here to speak against the ordinance prohibiting cannabis sales in the city of Edwardsville. Some of you that know me know that I was an assistant state's attorney in Madison County for over the 32 years, from December of 1984 through February of 2017 when I retired. From 1991 through 1997, 6+ years, I handled all of the adult probation revocations in Madison County, both felony and misdemeanor. And I still remember a lot of them, and I saw a lot of people come through that were not able to complete probation because of substance abuse problems. I saw a lot of people that could not complete probation because of alcohol problems. This was the height of the crack epidemic. I saw a lot of people who were not able to complete probation because they had a cocaine addiction or a crack addiction. I saw other substances as well. I do not remember a single case of somebody that was unable to complete probation because of a marijuana dependency. Not an adult, and again, this was adult probation. I can't speak to the juveniles, but I do not remember a single case. I also am familiar with the zoning principles and the reasons for zoning, and I handled zoning matters for the county for a long time. I'm familiar with the principles. The reason we have zoning is to combat negative secondary effects. I've been to Denver, I've been to Amsterdam. I have not really observed any of these negative effects. Granted, it is a very limited experience, but I've also tried to read up on the subject, and I have not read about any negative secondary effects. Again, I just live down the street here at 216 North Buchanan Street, where the entire 300 block, which is a lot of residences, are commercially zoned, and a cannabis dispensary could go into any one of them theoretically if it met the other requirements. I'm assuming that they would be in some sort of commercial zone. And I would not, I can guarantee you, if one is proposed to go in in my backyard, you won't see me at the meeting complaining about it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next speaker this evening is Elizabeth Grant.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Grant. I live at 2704 Falcon Crest, Edwardsville, Ward 7. I have a letter. I have my thoughts, and then I have a letter from my neighbor, Ben Tolley. Is that allowed or not? To read a letter?
3 minutes.
Okay. So the decision to bring a recreational marijuana store to Edwardsville is a big one and should be given much consideration. While we may agree or disagree with Illinois' decision to legalize marijuana, it is here. It is legal in our state. It is something that we will have to deal with as employers, teachers, and neighbors because now it's legal. Not to say that it hasn't been used up to this point. I've been teaching college students for 26 years. But now it will be accepted and will be definitely more accessible. But tonight we have a decision to make about how accessible it should be to those who live here and perhaps mostly those who will come here to buy. I moved to Edwardsville because I liked the community. I still do. I am proud to call this my home. I realize that the appeal in having this come to our community may be a financial one, and I believe that is rash. In talking to my friends who live in Castle Rock, Colorado, which is an affluent Denver suburb that voted not to bring marijuana into their community, one of many that made that choice, they said that usually the marijuana shops didn't last very long in Denver because of the fees and their costs of regulation. So what we might view as a money grab may in fact not be one. While I understand if we do not get the first licenses, our chances may decline due to the fact that we are not considered a needy community, I still don't believe that we have done our due diligence in getting the pulse of the community in terms of how they feel on this matter. Even though you may think that last week's committee meeting was their chance to do that, I believe that we can do better. I wonder how many clicks that we had on that calendar on the website to find out even about that committee. The drawbacks to being an early adopter are large. Please consider the long-term effects that this hasty decision may have before voting tonight. If I had to sum it up in one word, it would be uncertainty. Being an early adopter is a gamble. We have some idea of what to expect, but there's no way to be sure of what the effect of this will be. So why do we have to be the first to jump on? And these are the thoughts of my neighbor, Reverend Ben Tully. These are not my thoughts. These are his, but he went to the meeting last week and could not be here tonight and has strong feelings on this. So, greetings. I am writing to support the ordinance prohibiting the sale of cannabis in the city of Edwardsville. Please vote to prohibit the sale of cannabis for recreational use within the city limits. This will ensure family-friendly economic development, provide safer streets, and protect our entry-level workforce ages from lack of employment. In my job, I travel throughout Illinois and Missouri seeing many cities, towns, and communities. The key factor in a town for success is a high percentage of families in a population. Therefore, it is of utmost importance that zoning decisions at the City Council regarding corporations, banks, places of worship, and businesses, we should try to entice to our community have consideration as their impact on existing and future families. There have been recent news stories and state laws about the possible medical benefits of marijuana and its casual or recreational use, but these don't apply to children or teens within families. Teens often refer to these stories and laws to defend their use of marijuana. Secondly, though highly touted as a miracle drug, cannabis and marijuana can be harmful in several ways. Today's cannabis, marijuana, is 3 to 5 times more powerful with THC, as recently stated this week in U.S. Congress. Marijuana is known to affect short-term memory and the ability to handle difficult tasks. When using stronger types of marijuana, even simple tasks can be difficult. The drug affects a person's ability to understand and also their reaction time. Those in their 20s who use marijuana may study and learn because it hurts the ability to focus and pay attention. THC affects timing, movements, and coordination. Our entry-level workforce will suffer with widespread use. Thirdly, treatments for marijuana dependence are similar to therapies for other drug abuse problems. These include detoxification, behavioral therapies, and regular attendance at support group meetings such as those sponsored by Narcotics Anonymous. We need to understand that proximity of such a drug to our community will have a negative side effect to the most vulnerable among us. We have an opportunity to forge our city in a manner that ensures its success for many years to come on this issue. Let's make a wise decision together. Thanks for your consideration, Reverend Ben Tully. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next speaker this evening is Bob Hume.
Thank you. Bob Hume, 601 Lane Street, Edwardsville. I'm a retired police officer from the state police. Last job was at the State Police Training Academy, where I helped supervise the training of many of your officers here in Edwardsville on the drug abuse program. You've done a great job on training children how to recognize drugs, how to deal with drugs when they're presented to them, and to stay away from drugs. Now we're proposing to start selling drugs. I mean, this is idiocy. It does not make any sense whatsoever. And I'm here to say, for the sake of our children, for the sake of the laws that we have, you must reconsider and stop this nonsense. We are going to have a heck of a time trying to explain to children who have had the DARE program and have been taught how to stay away from drugs. How are you going to answer the question that they're going to have when we're selling drugs on the streets? That is my main reason for being here. I think it's a really serious mistake on the part of the city to do so, and I would urge you, please, don't have the sale of any drugs in the city limits, even if you need the money. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Pat, we've exceeded our 3. Do you want to also speak? Okay. Next speaker this evening, Pat Hume.
Thank you for the exception, Mayor. Yeah, Pat Hume, and I am encouraging you guys to vote for the prohibition of this ordinance, which you probably already guessed. And I'm going to start with Mr. Burns. Knowledge as a retired school teacher and enjoying your grandchildren, you have multiple reasons to support this prohibition. Mr. Morrison, Grandview families are watching and they are voted for you to lead them into the best community possible. So please vote yes for prohibition. Young son growing up here, and I know you support health and fitness with your hard work introducing Edwardsville to the challenging bicycle career criterion, right? Thank you. And Dr. Farrar understands. Ms. Stack, I'm sorry I haven't met you before. With your professional long-term investment, a long-time investment in special needs children and adults, you have firsthand knowledge of the added high risk and intensity that drug use can impact families. Mr. Art Rosevy, as former school board member of Trinity Lutheran School, you are very aware of the need and responsibility we all have to lead and guide our young children and teens. Owner of Swing City Music, affords you opportunities to watch Edwardsville children create joy and song. Do not vote to heighten the risk of failure in this life for them. Mr. Lauber's not here, but he's very active with the YMCA board of directors and a long-standing assistant superintendent of schools. So I'm sure he knows the joy that we have with healthy children. Please vote no, and there are lots of good support in this meeting tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. That concludes our citizens wishing to address the council sign-up sheet for this evening. So we will move on. First, yes, sir. Sir, are you speaking?
My name is David McClendon. I'm here on twofold things. The first topic that you're talking about, the drugs. I don't need a piece of paper or anything else. I own McClendon Mortuary and Cremation Services. I just left a gentleman on the table, overdose. My friends, you people in waters you don't know nothing about. You don't know anything about it. How many parents do you have coming in, wants to fall down? I also help with autopsies sometimes at St. Louis County Morgue. How many parents do you see every day coming in, falling out, talking about what Johnny wouldn't do and what they will do? My friends, it's crap. It's crap when you have to see this day in and day out. Did you see young people, vibrant, very muscular people, who have been succumbed? I came to Edwardsville 20 years ago as a place of refuge so I could get away from all the crap that I service every day. This is what I do for a living. It's not a white thing, it's not a black thing, it's not an Asian thing, it's a people thing. And it happens. My wife and I used to help her go around to the elementary schools. My wife was curriculum director for the 8th largest school district in the state of Missouri, Hazelwood School District, Dr. L. Jean McClendon. She now teaches part-time down at St. Louis U and Washington University. People, when you bring in something you don't know about, you got problems. I'll stand and collect your money. I'll come in and you want to pay me $4,000 or $5,000 because you ain't got enough money to bury them. Hey, I'll collect your money all day long. I think the bank would love me. My finance people would love it, but it doesn't happen that way. I'm going to switch gears here. But as far as your drug thing is concerned, you don't want no mess in Edwardsville. Edwardsville is a good place of refuge, a place that you can drive around, walk, ride your bike. You don't have to worry about a lot of mess. And you have not saw mess until you bring mess in. So it's mess in and it's going to be mess out. That's what you're going to have, my friends. So all you want to do, you want to come to my place sometime, maybe after 9 or so, when we're embalming. It's about 3 embalmers over there. And we got 1, and we got 2 to pick up now. They're going to have autopsies this evening. It's not nice, people. It's not nice at all. So know what you're doing before you do it. St. Louis had a number of murders last year. A lot of them were contributed to drug use, overdose, people saying they got bad dope, mess that you don't know nothing about. You've never been there. The second thing I want to talk about, I came before this committee 21 years ago. 21 years ago, we came before this committee. We bought a piece of property at Country Club Lane and Country Club Drive. I bought it, I subdivided, I sold it to David Jones. Sold him half, I took half. After doing so, we were guaranteed a lot of things. It's just been less than a year ago that I had to go to Madison County Title to talk to Frank, the owner up there, about telling me what I knew about my property. Frank began to tell me he went back to 1847 to research everything that's happened out there. Between Frank and Cheryl Engineering, $3,400 to find out that we are right. My daughter is an attorney and also a judge. She began to tell me, Dad, and no reflection, I'm going to speak and call names, but I came up to have a discussion, friendly discussion with the mayor. The country club is governed by the sheriff's office. That street is private, was supposedly private. It's no longer private, it's a public thoroughfare. Catherine Casson, I asked Catherine, if you get a chance, come up. She's my neighbor, ain't but 8 of us on that street. Carl's dead. Casson, she's at the other end. And the architect, I can't think of his name, he just bought a home up there on the other end. For all these years, we have had to pay to have the snow shovel. Up until last year, we paid. I paid because my wife, as I say, she had 21 elementary schools that she was in charge of. Therefore, she leave at 5 o'clock. We had the street shovel. Then Catherine Casson would always take in the money. She and her husband would take in the money. We'd have the streets re-rocked and everything. My friends, I pay a porter to clean up my parking lot. I have 2 funeral homes, one in St. Louis County, one in Springfield. Inasmuch as I have to pay, and you're paying $13,000 here, $38,000 over in Missouri for taxes, when you look at that and then you put your home on, you're over $55,000 just for darn taxes. My kids have never attended a public school. That's our problem. But by the same token, you want the services that you paid for. I'm here. I hated to do this, but I had to go down to the state police to ask about these vehicles on the thoroughfare that are not licensed. They said, you need to put up a deer camera and then let us know the next time you have unauthorized vehicles that are unlicensed, fine. So I called another gentleman, Reggie. Reggie's with the FBI. I said, Reggie, this is what I found out. I've had this to be told to me. He said, Dave, call me when you have this told to you again. You don't need to bring your daughter or her law firm in. Call me and let's see if we can get this satisfied. We put in to have our taxes reduced because of all this time we paid. They told me this is a civil matter that needs to be handled by the auspices of the city of Edwardsville and Edwardsville Township. People, I'm here to begin dialogue. That's what I'd like to begin. I'm through. As far as your other subject, leave your kids at home, leave them alone, keep the dope out of their hands. If you want to put the dope in their hands, put an insurance policy in their hands and give it to me or somebody else, because that's what you're doing. God bless you. Have a blessed day.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our citizens wishing to address the council. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and that will include approval of the minutes of the council meeting of August 20th, 2019. It'll also have the group health insurance fund report standing at $327,131.15. We have the addition of one closed session on real estate consideration. And any other additions or deletions for the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to change the date of the Finance Committee. It's being changed to Wednesday, September 11th, 2019 at 4 p.m. in the Governor Edwards Conference Room.
Okay, thank you. Any other additions, changes? Roll call on the consent agenda, please. Oh, I need a motion first.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. We have a motion. Now roll call, please.
Mrs. Stack?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Rizzabee?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Mayor?
Thank you. Motion passed. Under petitions and communications this evening, we have a Public Works Director, the building, electrical, and plumbing permits for July of 2019 have been adjusted and included in this packet. And under item B, we have the Administrative and Community Service Committee scheduled for Thursday, October 31st, 2019 at 5:30. That will be rescheduled for Tuesday, October 29th, 2019 at 5:30 in the Governor Edwards Conference Rooms. I have a couple additions, at least announcements. This Saturday, the Edwardsville Book Festival will take place. It's the first, what we hope to be an annual book festival and sale at City Park, and that's from 9 until 4 p.m. Again, that's September 7th. We also have an announcement in terms of painting the town gold, 3.1 mile family run before our next council meeting. This is on September 14th, the following Saturday, and that's at 6 p.m. And I had a request today from the American Legion, which will be celebrating their 100th year anniversary, and that is also on September 14th, and that's from 1:30 p.m. until dusk. That will include many neat things. There'll be an honor guard presentation, free barbecue and pig roast at 2 o'clock. At 4 p.m., the United States Air Force Band of Mid-America will perform, and then there'll be a fireworks program at dusk. And that, again, is on September 14th at our American Legion. Under Legislative and Executive Committee this evening, we have item A, which is a presentation from the Beautification and Tree Commission, a committee that's dear to my heart. Helped get that started when I was an alderman back in, I think, 1999, possibly, 2000. So it's been a few years back. We have some members here this evening, and they're going to give us an update on what they do for the city to help beautify and make this a wonderful place to live. Benna?
My name is Benna Deneau, and I have served on the Beautification and Tree Commission. Mayor Patton, you were right. Wilma Jean invited me to a meeting in 2001. She said, there's this new group forming, it's kind of all about trees. And she said, I think you'd enjoy going to it. So I said, sure. So I get there, and it's Alderman Patton at the time. He's leading this meeting. And were you part of that meeting too, Alderman Morrison?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So it was a good meeting. They were talking a lot about trees and what they wanted to do in the community. And I went to the next meeting in June, and I went to the July 24th meeting and found out I had been appointed the chairperson of this committee. So it was like,
excellent choice.
okay, okay, let's get on with it then. the one thing that Alderman Patton pointed out was that he would like to see the city of Edwardsville become a Tree City USA, and that's done through the Arbor Day Foundation. So in 2002, we had our first Tree City event, and since then, we've had one every year until our last one, which was in 2019. And you've seen the flag flying in City Park ever since then. So I just wanted to mention that we definitely are a tree city and will continue on that map too. So 2014 rolls around and I thought, well, I think I'd like to step back a little bit. Had some things going on in my life, so I did. And I got a call from, at the time, Mike Reinhardt, who was the chairperson. He asked if I couldn't come back on the commission and help out. So I did, and I said, I'll do it. I'd like to just take minutes, though. So many of the same people were still serving on the commission. So that was good. I really enjoyed that part of it. Well, 2017 rolls around, and I found myself being appointed again to be the chairperson. So here I am. And after Mayor Patton asked about updating the commission and what we've been doing, I said the only people that should speak to that are the people on the commission who do all this work, who are tireless volunteers. I mean, they've just, since the beginning, have just given of themselves. So tonight, rather than hearing any more from me, I'd like to introduce who's going to speak to you tonight about what they do. Becky Sievers, who's with Public Works, she serves on the commission. Her role, she's done so much to help us out and get things accomplished and rolling. Susan Bosch, she's handed out some information on what she's working in. She's all about trees. There's just no doubt about that. Followed by Clint Solden. He'll talk about Green Thumb Awards, which have been in existence since that very first time, Mayor Patton, you were at that meeting. Wilma Jean and Janet Fearcobb were the Green Thumb Award Committee. And Bob Pfeiffer, I don't think he'll come up here and say anything, but I would just like to thank him for his help and guidance on the commission. And I think you've been with the commission since day one. And then finally ending out our presentations is Dennis Pluta. And I don't even have to say anything about Dennis or what he does and what he's done on the commission. We have a new member with us tonight, Sarah Cundiff. She's going to follow along with me and help out with Arbor Day and Tree City USA. So she's set up for that. Jeff Papasik, he's a volunteer, and I can't say just a volunteer, but he comes in and helps us out whenever we need anything extra on the commission. So thanks to Jeff. And I don't think any of our other members are here. Well, Alderman Farrar, he sits on our commission, and Wilma Jean Bond, she was not able to make it tonight. Larry Lipe, and Jeannie Umbach and Kim Schoenfeld, not able to make it either. So, Becky, come on up.
Hi, I'm Becky Sievers. I'm a project engineer here for the city, and I help out with the Tree and Beautification Commission. I help out with all kinds of things, but one of the things I do help out with is the Tree City USA program and gathering all the data that they need to submit the application for that program. The program is to encourage communities to manage and expand their public trees, and it is put on by the Arbor Day Foundation. We were awarded a we were awarded the Tree City title for the 17th year, as Benna said. This past year, in 2018, we planted 36 trees and pruned 200 trees, proving to the Arbor Day Foundation that we are a community that cares about our trees and we do want to take care of them. We were also awarded a growth award through Tree City USA. This award is given to cities that show significant growth, and that doesn't necessarily mean in size, but in our program and how we manage our trees. We collaborated with Davie Resource Group to create an arboricultural specification manual. So this manual explains how to plant and maintain trees on city property. This is a big step forward for us in being more proactive. It's taking care of our trees rather than reactive, which we have been for quite a few years. We also encourage residents to take part in trees in the community, and one way we do this is by having a tree planting program. This is a cost share program that residents can take part in, where we reimburse half the cost of purchasing and planting a tree at their primary residence up to $75. So this program is going on right now. We started accepting applications August 19th, and we will continue to do so until December 6th. Applications can be found on the city website under the Beautification and Tree Commission, and they're also going to be going out with the water bills. In 2018, we received 50 applications for this program, and 39 of those trees got planted. So we're hoping to have a few more of those this year. Susan Bausch will discuss a few other tree programs that are currently going on.
Hello. I gave you a handout. It looks like this. That's a timeline of our the new trees we planted, but it focuses on our effort to identify and care for our existing urban forest. I joined the EBTC in the fall of 2013, and that following spring, I went with Mike Reinhardt to Springfield for the very last Illinois Arbor Tree Foundation presentation. Their funds were cut after that, so there were no more state presentations. But at that presentation, I listened to other cities that were receiving awards. Some had been devastated by tornadoes in Illinois, and how they were replanting their city using GIS and going from spot to spot. They knew exactly where the trees were, they knew what they were, and how they were going to care for them. So that got me to wondering, what do we have in place here in Edwardsville regarding tree location and tree maintenance? So this began my designation as the tree person on the EBTC. Our tree inventory efforts began here in Edwardsville in 2014 or 15, I guess. Myself and a U of I master naturalist, we, with the help of the GIS department here, we had a system in place, and we would go, and we started in the small parks. We did LeClaire, and we also did Lusk, and then we tackled Glick. Did you know Glick has more than 400 trees in it? Well, anyway, we soon found out we were in over our heads. So the data that we did collect that was beneficial to Bob, I believe, he was able to look at some of the trees that had been girdled by the trees that had tags on them that were memorial trees. He could fix that part, and also we were able to remulch a lot of the trees so that they didn't continue to have any weed whip damage. Becky noted the arboricultural specification manual. That was discovered through Detective David Serco, another city employee, it was kind of buried. We had no knowledge of it, a lot of us on the commission, but once we had it, we decided that it needed to be updated, and thus began our relationship with the Davie Resource Group. I met Meredith of the Davie Resource Group at a tree talk at Lewis and Clark. She presented a presentation to us at our meeting, and we formed a partnership. The Davie Resource Group is part of the Davie Tree Expert Company, a company who focuses on tree care that's been in business for over a century. We updated the manual, and you'll see in your handout some of the recommendations that were included. We then looked for a grant to fund a tree inventory for our city. And that came about in February, in January, let's see. We were approved in February for a grant that was partially funded by the EBTC and the Heartland Conservatory. So that inventory began this morning. 2 certified arborists from the Davie Resource Group met with myself and Sarah and Becky, and they began a citywide inventory. Another thing that we're working on and that I'd like to mention briefly is a partnership that's been developed with the SIUE Successful Communities Collaboration. This is something that, Mayor, I believe that you have underway, and we're using the Earth Edwardsville portion. They're going to help us with a search for the oldest tree in Edwardsville. So this is an application that went on the city website, and also it's available in the other places where we have our information, Public Works and the Public Library. We also, the Cool Cities Initiative Advisory Committee is also partnershiping with us on this. So this is a beginning to look at all of our old trees, to celebrate them, and to provide a base for a heritage tree program. So the next speaker from our group is Clint Soldan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Clint Soldan. I am a new member of the Edwardsville Beautification and Tree Commission, and I'm here today to just talk a little bit about the Green Thumb Award. It's the 20th year that we've done it, and the program provides recognition and thanks to Edwardsville residents and businesses, civic organizations who have enhanced the beauty of their properties through landscaping improvements. The awards were given to 14 winners this year. 10 residential, 2 businesses and commercial, 1 civic, and 1 neighborhood as well. And each winner's home or business was visited by a member of the Green Thumb Committee. Kim Schoenfeld was the chairperson of the committee, but she's not available. That's why I'm just presenting on her behalf. She went out and visited each one of these individuals and these businesses. One of the most interesting things was that a lot of the people, the plants, represented a family member for them. They would have an iris bed that was from their grandmother. Their grandmother's passed away. So it was really personal. One gentleman had a tree from his brother's farm, and it was probably 40 years old. So there's a lot of kind of sentimental value to these plants for these people. It's kind of interesting. The award signs were posted in each winner's backyard, front yard, and businesses, they remained there for about 3 weeks, and then we went ahead and collected them. And after that, the winners also received an award certificate signed by the mayor, and along with a letter and thanks from our city, our neighbors, and our neighborhood intelligencer also posted these awards on their website as well, and it's on the city's website. The Green Thumb Committee consisted of Wilma Jean Bond, Jeannie Umba, Kim Schoenfeld, and then there was additional support from Jack Butler, took pictures, and as well as myself and Jeff Papchik. So, does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Last but not least, Dennis Pluta will speak, I believe, in regards to his flower planters on Main.
Good evening. The Downtown Flower Pot Project has done really well this year with all the adequate rain and then the help of the watering by the Parks Department. We have 53 flower pots along Main Street, Vandalia, in City Park, and in front of the City of Edwardsville buildings. This fall, September 30th, we'll take 24 of those pots and we'll do a fall planting with celosia, millet, kale, Swiss chard, and mustard. Our project begins the first week of May and goes all the way through mid-November to beautify our city. We plant over 1,000 annuals in our spring pots and about 250 plants in our fall pots. And if you visit other cities and see their attempts at the flower pots, I think there's kind of attempts because they kind of fall short. And so our group feels very proud that we maintain a beautiful set of flower pots throughout our city. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank all the beautification members for the presentation. And Dennis, don't get too comfortable right there in the middle because you kind of set me up and you don't even know that you did this in terms of the setup, but I've been around other communities and I would agree with you that from the years, 20 years ago when we talked about hanging some petunias from the light post and worried about how we were going to water those to where you have taken this program. I'm going to give you an award tonight. It's the first time. We have 175 employees, and they know about this award, but this will be the first volunteer out of over 100 volunteers on our boards and commissions because the award is called Knocking It Out of the Park, and I certainly believe that you have done that with our project. So it's a Louisville Slugger bat with your name on it. Thought I was going to have to get this to keep the peace tonight. That's not what it's about. So. All right. Next on our agenda this evening is item B. It's a license to conduct a raffle for the Land of Goshen Rotary with proceeds going towards the District 7 student scholarships with chances to be sold October 30th, 2019 through November 27th, 2019. Prizes include cash awards.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stack?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Rissity?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Motion passed. Item C is a Class F special use liquor license for 800 Degrees Wood Fired Pizza LLC, DBA Peel Wood Fired Pizza, for the Edwardsville Art Fair to be held at City Park located at 101 South Buchanan Street, Edwardsville, Illinois, 62025 on September 27th, 2019 through September 29th, 2019.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion, a second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stack?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Rissity?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Motion passed. Item D is a Class F special use liquor license for Recess Brewing LLC for the SIUE Homecoming to be held at Cordy Stadium located at 3345 Stadium Drive, Edwardsville, Illinois, 62025 on Saturday, September 28th, 2019.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Stack?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Rissity?
Aye.
Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Motion passed. Item E is a Class F special use liquor license for Recess Brewing LLC for the Goshen Barbecue Festival to be held at City Park located at 101 South Buchanan Street, Edwardsville, Illinois, 62025 on October 5th, 2019 through October 6th, 2019.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion to second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stack?
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Mr. Rissity?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Motion passed. Item F is a Class B liquor license for Furniture Rewards LLC DBA Kloss Furniture located at 6132 Schroeder Drive, Edwardsville, Illinois, 62025.
Move for approval?
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Just curious why a furniture store wants a liquor license.
Yeah.
Do we know?
I think what we've heard or what we found out is that they were having drinks available for customers within the store.
I went in to take a look at the place, and that's what they offer you. They offer you bottle of water or beer.
As you go through the store, and we explained to them that that was not allowed without a license unless individuals, well, if they can't sell it, they're not paying for it. So, anyway, I think, Jeff, it was explained that they would need a Class B license to continue that practice.
Well, if we're going to be providing alcohol to the public, city ordinances require a liquor license. The state also requires a license, and the state prohibits furnishing alcohol for free, whether you're licensed or not licensed. So I don't know that this will help your situation.
That's not a bad idea, though.
Well, just for
Bring it up with the state.
Especially if you're buying furniture.
People have mentioned it numerous times at the dental office.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to say I did not accept the beer.
So-
Did they check?
Our servers would technically need to go through Bassett training like all other servers. But it's
Really?
not really an alcohol business, so it's kind of an odd.
Did they get their insurance?
I don't know.
They're waiting on the insurance.
Should this be tabled until we have,
The state clarifies that you cannot just give alcohol away for free. So if I walk into the furniture store and I'm, looking for a sofa and they come up, hey, we want a beer to try out the sofa, the state says legally you cannot do that?
Correct.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
Our ordinances aren't as clear as state statute, but we're required to follow state statute. So. Because our ordinance talk about selling, they're not selling alcohol. The
why don't
state
they
says
just offer
providing.
coffee, tea, water, or soda? I mean,
Because it's
I
not covered
hate-
by the Illinois Liquor Control
Yeah.
Act.
But I mean, I have a concern with the precedents here,
It's not just, there's other salons and other businesses that.
There is. There's a salon in town that does it.
But if you're at a salon, though, you're typically going in for a service being provided. There's a
you're paying for it.
transaction that is done for that. The liquor that you might get at a salon could be included within that package price, where there is no guarantee if you go into a furniture store that you're gonna make a purchase. Unless they give you a beer if you purchase that sofa, right? Maybe that's.
It's, let's take it up to the Illinois Liquor Control Commission.
is it packaged liquor? Are they giving you a six-pack?
I
Or
don't
are
know.
they-
I didn't want to buy any furniture, so I didn't stay very long.
Okay.
Makes those prices seem a little better as you keep the store.
It wasn't quite presented like that, so.
well, if they don't have the insurance anyway, we really can't do anything, right? They haven't
Well,
presented us the insurance.
yeah, they couldn't follow through with this until,
Right.
I mean, you wouldn't want to buy insurance if you're not going to get an affirmative
Right.
vote this evening.
Oh, okay, I see.
And so I think they're waiting for the affirmative vote, then they'll get insurance, then they will be able to follow through. That's my guess.
Okay.
But it's very different for us. It was different when I heard about it for the first time. I didn't know you had been to the store, Art.
I
but-
have.
Repeat customer? No, I'm kidding.
They were very nice, but I didn't really think I heard it right, so I asked my wife, and she says, yeah, I think you offered you beer, and I just didn't pay any attention.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of events that we attend that don't serve wine. Sometimes it's an award ceremony, other times it's just a gathering if it's an after hours. So I can see, sometimes attendance is encouraged for some by that, but this is a little different for us. So do we have a motion on the floor?
We do.
And we have a second. So really, at this time, we can't table it. I guess we could just vote it up or vote it down. Is that correct?
Or somebody can move the table.
Are there hours that they can serve it and not serve it? Or is it just
According to our liquor code, there's till midnight on weekdays and till 2 a.m. on weekends. It's Class B.
What's the city's liability if there is none?
Jeff, do you have a recommendation? Is this something we should be considering?
I don't think this addresses or helps their business plan or what they've been doing, because they're still non-compliance with state regulations.
So are we just giving them false hope that they can be legally doing this if we approve this?
Possibly.
For what you're saying is they have to technically sell it. It cannot be
Yes.
given away.
Yeah.
And they can determine their price.
Okay.
Which would be determined at the state once they follow up with them.
But it has to be a consistent price because of the happy hour rules and regulations and all that.
So even though we may approve for them to do it, they're still gonna have to follow state regulations.
Put the hiatus on the state.
All right. Any more questions? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stack?
No.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Rissy?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
No.
Mr. Farrar?
No.
So now we have a tie. And that brings up the next issue I'd like to talk about.
It's not an ordinance.
It's not an ordinance, so I can break this one. I'll vote no on this one until they bring more information. So motion fails. Yeah, the next issue that I was gonna discuss tonight, a little civics lesson, at least City of Edwardsville civics lesson, and this won't take long. I know we've had a long meeting this evening, but one of the items coming up, which is the item that most of you spoke to this evening, it comes down to, state law has made the recreational sale and use of marijuana legal in all communities and counties in Illinois. If a community wants to opt out of allowing marijuana sales, it must pass a local ordinance to opt out. Communities cannot opt out of the personal use portion. To establish a local ordinance, Edwardsville requires 2 readings. We're having the second reading this evening. And an affirmative vote of at least 4 elected aldermen is required to support the opt-out ordinance. As you see, we have 1 alderman that's not here this evening, and as you just noticed, I can break ties when it's not an ordinance and when it doesn't involve spending money. But if it's an issue that involves establishing an ordinance or spending money, it would require an additional council member. So basically, it does no good to try to break ties. But this is an opt-out ordinance. If it fails to garner the 4 alderman votes necessary to opt out, then the sales would be allowed. Okay? Does that make sense there, everybody? We wanted to kind of go over it. Jeff and I, we keep looking at this ordinance. The reason it's that way, that I can't break ties on those sorts of issues, is technically when we went from 14 aldermen down to 7, the ordinance didn't get changed for the mayor's position. The mayor would be an additional voting member, which would make 8 voting members, and the majority of an 8 would be 5. Yeah. Well, we'd have 8 voting members. The majority of the 8 would be 5. And so that means I can't break a 3-3 tie and make any difference. So, a little bit of civics. I just wanted to explain that as we go forward. Legal and judicial, do you have any other information?
No, that's good.
All right. City treasurer, would you like to chime in on that? You're good. And city clerk. All right. The first committee this evening is the Finance Committee and Alderman Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item A is the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting on August 13th, 2019 for your information and file. Item B was approve the Group Health Insurance Fund report during the consent agenda. And item C are claims in the amount of $721,237.10. Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stack?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Rissy?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Item D is a resolution adopting a fund balance policy. Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion second. Discussion?
Since March of this year, the Finance Committee, along with our City Clerk, Jeannie Wachesik, and our City Administrator, Kevin Head, and Mayor Patton, have been working to develop a fund balance policy for our general fund and other operational funds. What this essentially means is that we are putting in an ordinance the fact that we want there to be a reserve in our general fund. And what this fund balance policy says is we want that reserve to be between 25 to 33% of the operating funds of the projected annual expenses. So it essentially works out to between 90 to 120 working days of expenses for the city of Edwardsville. So by passing this resolution, we are saying that we want there to be this level of cushion available in the event, not just of emergencies, but shortfalls which occur. There's a dip in sales tax. There's a change in businesses and property taxes are reduced. There's a lot of different things that can affect our annual revenues. And so this gives the city a cushion, I think an important cushion. So, any questions?
It's also a cushion that is a little bit below what we've followed in-house for many, many years. We have a good reserve fund established at the city of Edwardsville, one that we're comfortable with. This puts it in policy, and it's not just the general fund. This actually adopts other funds that would have more personnel costs and the potential for shortfalls if there was a major change in the economy or a disaster would occur. So we'd at least have enough funds to pay employees and to have enough time to get back on our feet, make a determination what we needed and what we didn't need to continue doing.
And what's nice is that this is a range, 25 to 33%. It's not a hard number, a hard threshold. There's a range, so we have some flexibility.
I appreciate the fact, because I'm extremely conservative when it comes to money, as you all know when I was on finance. And I appreciated, number one, that Jeannie sat down and explained what was going on with it. And I also appreciate the fact that we had Hilltop Security guiding us in what would be appropriate. Because I was always worried about that fund.
Right. I think through the years, we've tried to keep, roughly 6 months for reserve fund, so, that kind of makes you feel good that we were up and be up and beyond, so.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Isby?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Item E is a resolution authorizing an agreement to encourage development within North Main Street TIF district of the city of Edwardsville, Illinois for the proposed Musali's on Main redevelopment. Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Discussion?
Yeah, this is a resolution that authorizes the TIF agreement. It's TIF 4 in that part of the city with North Main Street Properties LLC. And this is for the demolition of Rusty's, essentially, and the redevelopment of that property. It does include an upfront reimbursement as well as refunding of 60% of the increment of the increased property tax increment as the project moves forward. Any questions?
Another detail there, part of the upfront investment from the city is to purchase some property on the north side of the development, which will widen Lincoln Street and make for a safer pedestrian use on that end. So that's the majority of the upfront funding is actually purchasing that property back for right away.
Well, and
Is that
all
accurate?
the
Eric,
hoops
is that accurate? Okay.
all the hoops that we made them go through with the Polk store walls.
And I want to thank them for that. I drove by there the other day, and they've taken what appears to be every
Yes.
measure to protect that front of
Yeah.
the store. So it appears they're making every good faith effort.
And I would add that since the finance meeting, we had concerns or discussion about the amount of green space between Main Street and the parking lot, their architect had devised a revised concept site plan, expanding that 9 feet, taking away a parking spot all along that north Main Street corridor to provide additional green space.
Which was great. That was a request of Alderman Farrar at the Finance Committee that they increase the number of green space between the sidewalk and the parking. And sounds like they've done so, which is great.
It's, additional land that they've bought and donated back to the city for public purposes, really.
Is there a termination date on the 60% increment increase?
2031 tax year.
Thank you.
The only other thing I'll say is we were able to tour the site today with our Public Works Director, who is an engineer, obviously. He and I looked at what they tried to save. There are an awful lot of cracks in the brick wall.
I know.
Even with the bracing that they accomplished and the veneers that were already on there, literally powdering a lot of the old bricks. So despite what I think was a very, very good effort, it's going to be extremely difficult to save anything intact. And so probably looking at more of a monument memorial.
And that's all right. At least they've made that effort,
They've made
which I really appreciate.
Right, yeah, it's just, an old structure buried by a lot of material, and when you get into it and see, it was unfortunately crumbling.
And quite frankly, I'm thrilled for the public safety factor that Rusty's is coming
The
down.
buildings are down, yeah. Yeah, both that and the house were being visited by
Yes.
trespassers. Okay, Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms.
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Rissity?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. And item F is to announce that the Finance Committee will meet on Wednesday, September 11th, 2019 at 4:30 in the Governor Edwards Conference Room. Thank you.
Thank you, SJ. Next committee is the Public Safety Committee, and Alderman Kraus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, we have the minutes of the Public Safety Committee meeting that was held on July 8th, 2019, amended, and August 28th, 2019, for your information and file. Second, we have an ordinance amending Chapter 62 of the codified ordinances of the City of Edwardsville, personal allocation for the police department, and that is filed for first reading. And lastly, to announce the Public Safety Committee will meet on Thursday, September 12th, 2019, at 4:30 p.m. here in council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. And the next committee this evening is the Public Services Committee, and Alderman Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item A, you'll find the minutes to the Public Service Committee meeting that was held on August 13th, 2019. This is for your review and filing. Item B is a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an amendment to the waste hauling resolution and disposal service contract. Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Discussion?
Okay, the proposal was prepared August 14th, and it's going to be a six-year term. And in the term, the scope of the work as defined will remain the same, except we're going to have a change. The city is no longer going to have a citywide cleanup day. We're going to permit the residents to request cleanup 4 times per year.
You mean big trash pickup?
Large
Yeah.
items.
Yeah.
So no more large
Large
items
trash.
twice a year. It'll be 4
Correct.
times per residence.
They
have
need
to schedule it.
They need to give them 7 days' notice, and it's going to be under the same terms where they can't dispose of, hazardous materials, et cetera, okay? The good thing about this agreement, one of the good things about the agreement, landfill disposal pricing, the tipping fee will remain the same at $44.93. The residential rates will increase. They're originally $17.36 per month, and over a 6-year term, they'll increase roughly $3.07 over the 6-year term, okay?
Minimally.
And so that's really nothing. It's about 50 cents per month, okay? It's pretty much from me.
Okay. I know a little bit about the contract. I want to thank our city administrator, Kevin Head, and also our public works director, Eric Williams, for helping negotiate the terms. Administrator Head is actually the one who came up with the idea, knowing that we only had 2 large item pickup days per year, and he had been a member of other communities where they had a service that they could literally call and say, you know what, I have a large item, can you come pick it up now? And that's really nice that each resident, as Jack pointed out, is going to be able to do that up to 4 times per year with just a 7-day notice. So you won't have to sit on those large items, and we won't have, a couple days where the city looks like it's in chaos, or a week.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I always miss the picker.
So Kevin, I want to thank you for that. And then also, if any of you paid attention to the economics of things happening globally, recycling materials that used to be sent overseas to China, quite honestly, a lot has really dropped off in value. And they actually came to us, Republic Services, midterm, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and wanted an increase in our rate then, just to deal with the recyclable materials. Edwardsville produces a lot of recycles. It's a very effective program, and they were asking us for an increase then. We held the line and said, we're under contract. This contract, it calls for basically a 2.5% increase per year for 6 years, and that includes the same service that we have today. We're excellent recycling services, as well as at my house in particular, I think the individuals that provide the service are always very professional and very supportive. And if we have somebody that's been missed, they call the clerk's department, and within 24 hours, they're out there attending to that for the most part. So excellent service. It's a great contract, 6 years locked in, and still the same, same dates that we get picked up, same amount of material, the same canisters, which I think have worked out great. This is the first time that we've had an add-on to the contract that we all went to the organized containers. I think it's working out really well.
And they complimented us too for having that recycling program, because they're doing some upgrades and things to work with the recyclables.
Yeah, if you look at the size of that mound down on the way to St. Louis, and you realize that if we would have been recycling for the last 30 years, that mound could be half that height. Because we recycle about 40 to 45% here in Edwardsville.
Very impressive. To clarify then, this fall's large trash pickup will be the final?
No, it'll be by schedule.
The way the contract's currently written, we do have the dates already published, but we'd like to go ahead and make that transition now. There'd be a large PR campaign that Republic has agreed to do as individual mailer advising people now. We'll have to update our website and our social media sites as well. But we'd like to really, what's in this current agreement is to make the break now.
Very good.
Are you gonna provide information like in the water bill or something?
That's what, and a couple of Republic Services Group is here tonight with us as well. So Carrie and Susan Piazza are here, so they can help answer if I get something wrong. But no, they're gonna do a separate mailer. We will do something we can add something with a water bill insert, updated on our website and social media accounts as well. So the large trash pickup would be beneficial if someone's doing a home improvement project. They don't have to wait or store that material. They can actually call and dispose of it at that time. So we hope this will be a better service for the customers.
I know my wife will be happy.
And that's what matters.
It makes a lot more sense. I often find myself the week after large trash pickup goes by, I'm like, darn it, I should have been down and cleaned out the basement. So.
Mine is usually when I'm driving out of the subdivision and I see all the large items there.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, and in my neighborhood, all those rentals, then they can go ahead and call.
This would allow
instead of
them
leaving
to
that
keep
stuff out there on
the
street.
college move-out turnovers from accumulating. And the mayor hit on the recycling. Republic committed to recycling. They're not pulling back. Even though, as you've noted, the global market's changing, they are not pulling out of that market, so they're committed over the remaining term of this contract. And as you noted, there was much back and forth to get to where the rate's at, so Kevin and staff worked back and forth through several iterations to get where we're at today. So.
After your contract. Thank you. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Steck?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Rizzabee?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Item C would be the sole source resolution authorizing the purchase of bulk LA rock salt from Gunther Salt Company in the estimated amount of $107,688.75. Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
The city's been buying salt for many, many years, and Gunther is probably the only one that can provide.
I'll step in.
Okay.
This will be our fourth quarter purchasing agreement since we've changed our scope of contract with Veolia. This will be our first full year purchasing salt directly. So this is the same resolution that we've seen 3 prior times. It's they've been able to hold the same cost per ton. So this will be for the fourth quarter for salt purchases at the water plant.
And they're the only distributor.
Correct, for the food grade salt that we need for the softeners at the water plant.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Steck?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Rizzabee?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Item D, Public Service Committee will meet on Tuesday, September 10th, 2019 at 3:30 p.m. in the Governor Edwards Conference Room. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Jack. And the last committee this evening is the Administrative and Community Service Committee, and Alderman Reserve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item A is the minutes of the Administrative and Community Service Committee meeting on August 15th, 2019 for your information and file. Item B is the second reading of ordinance authorizing the sale of certain personnel and governmental property. Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
We are going to be selling some items that we have kind of collected and confiscated, and we're going to be having an auction on both of those, one of which we do annually.
Do we have the date on that?
September 14th, I think.
That's the day of all those other events I mentioned earlier.
Busy Saturday.
Okay. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Steck?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Rizzabee?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Item C is a second reading of ordinance prohibiting the sale of cannabis in the city of Edwardsville. Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I would like to take this opportunity to thank the people who came to all of our meetings and sent emails and expressed their viewpoints on the issues. At the committee level, we've had some extensive discussions about the issue of cannabis in a retail store and how it fits into the landscape of our city. Before I open this up to the other aldermen, I'd like to share a couple viewpoints on my feelings. I am in favor of this ban for several reasons. First of all, there is no clear understanding of how funding is to be received from the state level. Jeannie, our city clerk, went into it more extensively at our meeting. At the local level, with our sales tax increase and the extra percentage we're going to receive, that's very clear. But at the state level, it's not very clear. 20% of the money collected at the state level is for mental health and substance abuse concerns. That concerns me. They're collecting taxes from cannabis sales to fight substance abuse. The question I have is why? Second, there is no enforceable field test that our police officers can perform that passes the Fry test and is unenforceable in the court of law. And that came from not only an assistant state's attorney, but also your state senator. Cannabis will be legal in the state of Illinois. But if we have a cannabis store, our police officers will have to watch and patrol it and will cause an unnecessary strain on their time and energy. I have no doubt that's going to take time. I think we'd all agree. Third, I do not feel it fits to what we're trying to do. We've already had somebody show interest, I've been told, right, for a retail store to sell cannabis and gummies and brownies. What I'm concerned is what about the second and the third store? That could happen. Not in this round, but down the road. And how can we be sure it won't? We have SIUE, Lewis and Clark. We have 2 local high schools, middle schools, and private schools. I just feel like it sends the wrong message. Fourth, I've been told there are no health risks for the widespread use of cannabis. I've been told in committee by several people, and this is debatable. I would prefer to lean on the side of caution. A good example is just a few years ago, vaping was considered okay. Well, obviously now, as you can see, it's not. Originally, it was marketed to adults. Obviously now, you can see that it's not. Plus, we have vaping stores in Edwardsville. I hope you're aware that cannabis and THC can be used in vaping devices and is already an issue for adults and minors, and it's harder to detect and it is more potent. Finally, there's just too many questions. It brings to me my final thought, which is with all these questions, it's just a concern. It just doesn't seem to fit for Edwardsville. That's why I'm supporting the ban on cannabis sales in the city of Edwardsville.
Thank you, Art. Any other?
Yes, I would like to say, I'm going to be voting to allow it. And reasons being, I have received emails on both sides from some people that I respect very highly. I think it's one of those things that we have to agree to disagree. But all the research that I have done, and I particularly went to sites that were very even. They weren't one-sided, okay? I do not see where the big problem is. If we were talking about crack cocaine, or crack, or fentanyl, or some of the other wonderful things, opioids, then I would have more of a concern. But right now, I don't see, who's to say that we're even gonna get one? It's only 4 in an 8-county area. So I don't have that big of a concern.
Thank you, John.
You have to assume that we're going to get one. I don't think it's our position to really determine. We're lay people, and we don't know if the harm that it does or not. I told myself a long time ago that I would not vote in favor of this for the income potential. I mean, that has nothing to do with my decision. My decision is going to be based on the dispensary itself, where it's located. From my research, many businesses will not come into that particular area and establish a new business because of that location, okay? So I am going to be voting in favor of not allowing it.
Unless it's a pizza shop or something, right?
Yes, or brownish.
Brownish, there you go. Cupcake
Agree to
or something.
disagree.
You know, my viewpoint is a little different. You know, we don't go by, you know, this side says this and this side says that. I'm a medical professional. We don't, I mean, there's data or there's not data, and that's sort of how we look at it. And from journal articles that I've read, medical journal articles, peer-reviewed, I don't see, I mean, I'll be honest with you, initially I was kind of ambivalent about this. I was like, well, you know, it's sweeping the nation, you know, and I've always felt that it was, you know, relatively safe and all that stuff. But, you know, when you actually dive into the data, the real data, there is no data. I mean, bottom line, there is really no safety data to show that this drug, and it is a drug, is safe for, you know, frequent daily use, you know. I mean, they test Tylenol, you know, they have not tested this at all. And so that's where I kind of give pause, because, you know, you're right, we aren't at the state level, we don't have that authority, but we are home rule, and so we do have, you know, we do have a vote. And so, you know, to allow a product that is not tested, I think is not prudent. I think that would not be something that we should do. I think it sends the wrong message to say we're giving it a stamp of legitimacy, when I think the data does not prove that. I mean, I could list you some of the concerns, you know, I got, you know, sheets of this stuff, but I mean, it's anywhere from, you know, memory problems to low birth weight for pregnant women. I mean, pregnant women, 8%, 10% of pregnant women think it's okay to smoke, think it's safe. You know, it's sort of, you know, that's the perception already. You know, now we're sitting here voting to say, yes, let's sell it. And I think it gives that sense of legitimacy. I'd be concerned about. So, you know, I'm all for the decriminalization of it. I think that's fine. But I don't want to think that, you know, we should be lulled into thinking that this is this drug it does not have consequences. I mean, if, for example, I'll just give the example of tobacco. You know, tobacco is so prevalent as our nation was being founded and such. And then it wasn't until people started dying off, you know, they were living long enough to be dying from diseases from tobacco. If we were talking about tobacco today, we would not approve it, because knowing what we know today, we would say, but that's crazy, right? It causes cancer and heart disease and strokes. We'd say we wouldn't pass that. And that's where I think we've fallen down as a society. We're so eager to be progressive, where we really should have said, you know what, the federal government should have said, hey, you know what, you know, this is where it's going, let's do some studies to see the safety value of this drug. Because there are probably some benefits. I'm not denying there is. And I don't really know if it's safe or not. What I want us to understand is that there's no data to prove its safety, and I think to allow a product that is unproven in any type of sense, I think is foolhardy. I mean, look at Roundup, for example. I mean, I just read that it may be causing cancer. That was tested, and that was been around for a while. Now we're releasing a product, or we're not releasing. We're allowing a product to be sold that we don't know much about. So I'll leave it.
You know, but this isn't a debate about the pros and cons of cannabis. This is a debate about whether or not to allow its sale in our community, which I think is a totally different, frankly, debate. And you know, from my perspective, if, as everybody says, recreational cannabis is going to create new law enforcement issues, I don't want to shift that burden to the taxpayers. At least if we have a dispensary that's collecting sales tax, then my family that is not going to be using it, and all of the Edwardsville families that aren't going to be using it, won't have that burden on their property taxes. In that regard, it's like a user fee to help offset the cost of the additional law enforcement that's going to be here. In my research, it isn't the dispensaries that are the problem. It's the fact that it's legal. It's the fact that it's legal in these communities. That therein lies the issue, not the dispensaries. The dispensaries have security. The dispensaries have all sorts of safeguards in place. They are not the issue. From my perspective, if I genuinely believed that this was going to be harmful to Edwardsville, I would absolutely never vote to allow this in our community.
So if you understood that it was harmful to the residents of Edwardsville, would that change your mind? I mean, if you said, if I could tell you that this drug has some really negative consequences, would that change your mind? I mean, harming the
I think
residents.
the
I think
argument
it's
could also be made,
inconclusive.
I mean, with medical marijuana being available, I mean, obviously it's proven that there are some benefits to it as well.
Yeah, but
So
that's a different topic, because
But
you're
I-
actually required to get a license and actually the prescription for that.
But it's the same
medication.
product, so you can't say
And
it's
there's still-
automatically harmful to everyone. 'cause
And
there are
also,
some
No,
I
I'm
benefits.
think we
not
need
saying it's harmful
to
at all.
remember,
What
if we
I'm trying
could,
to say is that there are some problems with the fact there's no data.
cannabis
And
is.
I would like to clarify, though, we are, according to Jeannie, we will still get the funding from the state level, just as we would. if
That
we
is
were
not
selling- we will
quite an
not get-
accurate
but
statement.
I want to be very accurate. It was explained multiple times. The money that's coming down from the state, we will have an opportunity to attain once they figure out how they're going to distribute it. Now, the local money we won't get, okay, which is 4.25.
4.25.
4.25. Now it's been mentioned how much we would get potentially. I think somebody mentioned potentially 200,000, which means roughly we would have to be running, what, $2 or $3 million worth of cannabis through Edwardsville. But we're still going to get the money from the state.
Let's
There's not one
clarify that,
person who's
though.
been able
no.
to clarify anything
Let's
different.
Clarify
that's
that. We
Oh,
will
it is?
receive.
Okay, because there's been many discussions, like he
We
just said.
will
We're not
receive
gonna
money
get the
from
money
the
to reach our
state,
law enforcement.
but
That's not true.
That
Hang-
money
hang on
will
just a
have
second.
very specific strings.
One of you speak
connected
at
to
a time, all right. Will, you can have the floor, and if you'd like to counter that.
So,
or-
to begin with, Illinois became the 11th state to allow for recreational marijuana sales. We're the first to do it by a vote of the General Assembly and not through popular referendum. To address Dr. Farr's concern, cannabis already exists within our community and has existed within our community, as long as the community has been here. Colorado being the first state that passed and allowed for recreational cannabis, there is some data, and I do agree that there is insufficient research, but largely that is because of a federal mandate saying that we cannot study cannabis at numerous levels throughout the country. Other countries in Europe, and of course with Canada last year passing it nationwide, there are studies that show the effects of cannabis. Overall, I think the takeaway, and again, I don't think it's our position to argue the pros and cons of that, but the way I look at it is everything in moderation. We do allow for the sale of tobacco, we do allow for the sale of alcohol, which is extremely detrimental to society. Hundreds of thousands of people die every year from overdoses of alcohol. And the CDC has yet to report one overdose due to THC. Now, does that mean if you get high and get behind the wheel of a car that you may not cause an accident? Absolutely not. But you can go out and you can have one too many drinks at one of our local bars and you can leave and cause an accident that's tragic. This is going to be allowed outright January 1st, and I think it needs to be regulated and it needs to be controlled, and we can do some of that locally through our zoning process. This will not be allowed, or I have no intention of allowing it near residences, or even potentially within our downtown business core. I think there are other areas that we can look at, maybe B2, more of the edges of our community. But that's a debate for another time. When it comes to the financing, that is not the decision why I am for this. It is not the aspect of us gaining finances, whether from local sales tax or from the state. But from, as one commentator from the audience said earlier, this has been a debate that's been 50 years in the making. It is of my opinion the war on drugs, particularly with marijuana, has destroyed more individuals' lives through the incarceration process than the drug actually did to them. And the concern we're facing in our country now is an opioid crisis that has actually been pushed by pharmaceuticals that are approved and allowed. I don't believe that allowing these sales are going to negatively impact our community. People, there also will not be a store on every corner. At best, at least for the first year, we will only be allowed one license at best. And then after that, as another commentator said, there will be a disparity study done by the state. And the state will determine, based upon need of income and on communities affected by the war on drugs, where more licenses will be distributed to. I'm for allowing cannabis sales. I've said that all along, and most of my position remains unchanged.
Thank you, Will. If I could speak before we go to follow-ups, if you all would like. As a fellow healthcare provider, I know firsthand the amount that's in the community because we have questionnaires. I also have oral exams that I perform, and I can tell when somebody's using cannabis and when they're not. It is here, everybody. If you didn't believe it, you don't realize it. Also, I hate the harmful effects of smoking in general. And it's clear to me that vaping, with as many chemicals are in vaping or the 200 chemicals that are in chewing tobacco, we have a lot of things out there that harm us. Just as was mentioned earlier, though, you can find articles both pro and con on this particular drug. It's very easy to support it. It's very easy to oppose it, in my opinion. One of the examples, I know smoking and the soot that you see in the air, when that gets in your saliva, it messes with your gums. You're more likely to have gum disease. But cannabis is an anti-inflammatory. And if you rinse with it, it has a positive effect on your gums. So there's just an example of my profession. The one thing that we don't know about, and Alderman Farrar pointed it out as a healthcare provider, we don't know the effects on the brain. And the brain is our most complicated organ. We're not going to know many things about the brain for the next 50 years until the technology gets us there to determine what impacts different activities and different chemicals have on the brain. It's a mysterious area for us, so it's very easy to be afraid of what this is going to do to children and what it's going to do to users. It's a little hypocritical, in my opinion, to pick one drug versus the other. I know that we'd like to say all drugs are bad, but as been pointed out tonight, alcohol is for sale in many areas in this community, many convenience stores, and it is a more harmful drug than marijuana. Absolutely, more people die because of the overdose or abuse of alcohol. And as our police chief pointed out, there's a lot of accidents that occur, and there's a lot of takedowns and fights that occur. People get angry on alcohol. There aren't too many, if any, fights that occur because somebody's too high. It's a different type of drug. We talked about effects and who's prescribing. I mean, as a healthcare provider, I prescribed some codeine. Very little, but I did. And now you see the effects of serious opioids on so many people in our community, the addictions that it's caused by drugs like OxyContin, and leading to this opioid crisis that we have, which is also a fentanyl crisis, being dumped by other countries. So there's a lot of drugs out there, everyone, and I just don't see this one registering as the top on my list. That's harmful and is hurtful to not only society but to individuals. The other thing I fear, as it goes now, as I mentioned, the use is here. When you have somebody that's buying from a dealer, I think there's a lot bigger chance of that dealer turning somebody into a escalating drug. Hey, I'm a little short on that. Or you know what? In that last batch of marijuana, you also got a little bit of this, and you really like that. So why don't I sell you that directly? And that really scares me because there's been a lot of talk about this being a gateway drug. And if that's the case, I'd rather see them buy it from a licensed group that's selling something that they know that what it is, instead of the ingredients getting messed with and getting jacked with. I've never smoked in my life, and I don't plan on it. But I'd sure, if I was smoking, I'd want to know what was in that. And I think under a controlled, licensed environment, you're going to see more of that. So, the cat's out of the bag, as many people have mentioned. The state of Illinois passed this overwhelmingly, veto-proof. There were individuals on both sides of the aisle that supported this. So it's here. We're going to have to deal with it from a law enforcement perspective. We're going to have to deal with it from, I think a parent perspective is where I've come back to. And I've worked with my kids. Luckily, I have two that are, out of the home, and we told them, you can't do this. You can't smoke. It's going to ultimately catch up with you, and it'll affect your performance, and it could kill you, because smoking and vaping and all this stuff is very dangerous. But I don't think we can look past alcohol and the other pharmacies that we have in town, and the prescriptions that are written by good doctors and bad doctors and sold by drug dealers and non-drug dealers. I mean, it's a pretty complicated situation. So I can see why there's a split on the council. I don't envy them, but I will back every one of these council members up. Every person up here cares about this community. They give up a lot of their time and a lot of their freedoms to be here, and they put themselves on the line. I got probably 20 emails and phone calls on this issue. I didn't calculate it, but it was a 60-40 split. We appreciate the speakers tonight. Some of you that spoke tonight are some of the pillars of our community. You know, people that we go to for advice and for answers on many subjects. So to come out tonight and either speak for or against it, I appreciate you being here. So this is an issue that we're dealing with, and we didn't ask for this. Nobody said, "Hey, let's do this in Edwardsville and Edwardsville alone." It's hitting our entire state and 11 other states total.
Oh, yes.
So it's here, and I will tell you that we won't let something like this ruin our community. We will enforce the possession, and those that are doing it, just like we do with underage drinking at parties. If we catch anybody with alcohol in their system, we're going to get them a ticket. We're going to use every tool in our toolbox to keep this out of the hands of youth. It will be here, as everyone said, January 1st, whether we sell it here or not. And so at least there'll be some awareness. And again, I appreciate the clergy that have reached out. I think that's a great place to affect behavior at home. And parents, just do your absolute best. Double down on what you've done to this point and realize that it is going to be here. And it's going to be in different forms. They're not always going to be smoking it. It's going to be, different products, oils, and, as you pointed out earlier, vaping, extremely dangerous. Why anybody would suggest that that's going to be good to bring in chemicals into your body that you've never brought in before? There's no evidence, no proof. So that's just some of my thoughts on it as a healthcare provider and representative of the community. Are there any follow-ups from the alderman?
There's pro and con, obviously. And again, it's not our position to determine whether it's healthy or unhealthy. Okay, that's not the point. The point is, are we going to allow it in the city? Okay. And my study has indicated that it is detrimental to people that are peripheral to it, the businesses and the residents. Okay. I would like to see more time where a study can be made where we can see how detrimental it is to the community. I know Colorado, they use that as an example, but 1 of 7 communities voted in favor of dispensing the drugs. Okay. So there were 6 communities that said no. Okay. I go to Colorado all the time. I've been to Amsterdam also. But I'm just saying I'd like to see some time. I'd like to see us buy time. And I'm not opposed to people smoking it. It's the law and it's gonna happen. And I was like Chris, when this issue first came up, I thought, I don't know, it's fine with me, But again, I just like to see a little bit more study to make that determination. So we can back off and say, okay, yeah, we made the wrong decision, let's allow dispensaries.
I agree with you. I think some more time would be good. My biggest concern is we're talking about restricting businesses, right? To me, you're supposed to feel positive. You're supposed to feel good about businesses coming to our community, where we're automatically going to say, okay, you're coming to our community, but we want you over here.
And that's exactly
what's
what
to
we're
say
doing.
that the person over here?
We always regulate
But-
businesses.
Well,
Okay.
we're putting them on the edge of town.
No,
But-
we're not.
I'm not talking-
We haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
If we
but-
could, just one
and
at a
that's
time
step
again,
2.
sorry.
I'm just
Sorry.
saying, when we restrict it to wherever we're gonna restrict it to, who are we to say that person over there wants a cannabis retail store by them? That's the way we feel.
That's right.
What if the person who's there doesn't want them next to them?
And that's my problem.
And I agree with that.
And that will be coming up if it's voted that we will have cannabis sales. There will be zoning laws, there will be recommendations of different areas in the community. So that's a subject for a follow-up.
Yeah, I would like to say that I appreciate, on my Administrative and Community Service Committee, we've had many aldermen come, and we had a spirited debate, and I appreciate all their viewpoints, and I respect them, but I just don't think we're gonna be able to agree on this one. I don't think being early to the game in this instance makes sense. I'd rather take a wait-and-see approach.
And I appreciate everybody coming, your input and respect. I appreciate it very much.
All right, I guess, ready for a roll call?
Sure.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stack?
No.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Wizady?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
No.
Mr. Kraus?
No.
Mr. Farrar?
Yes.
Okay. That is a split vote. That means the ordinance has failed. Correct?
Yes.
Thank you. It's a confusing one. All right. Next item.
Item D is a resolution approving an annexation agreement concerning 4247 Bone School Road, PID 14-1-15-08-02-201-015. Move for approval?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Discussion?
This resolution approves the annexation agreement between the city of Edwardsville and the Bible Truth Hall and allows for connection to city's water.
Any discussion? This was a public hearing held earlier tonight. There was nobody from the public to speak against it. So, roll call, please.
Mrs. Stack?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Rudy?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Item E is an ordinance adopting a municipal cannabis retailer's occupation tax and amending Chapter 6, Article 3 of the Codified Ordinance of Edwardsville, Illinois, and this is filed for first reading. Item F are items forwarded for approval from the 8/16/2019 Race Board meeting. The first item is our Global Brew Luau on 9/14/2019. Item 2 is the Edwardsville High School Homecoming Parade dated 10/9/2019. Item 3 is the Edwardsville YMCA Spooktacular Run Walk, also on 10/19/2019. And item 4 is the Edwardsville Glen Carbon Chamber of Commerce Halloween Parade, 10/31/2019. And item 5 is the Paint the Town Gold 5K Run and Post-Race Block Party on 9/14/2019. And they are requesting an addition of a food truck since the race board, since the 5/7/2019 race board approval. Move for approval?
Second.
We have a motion, a second on the items from the race board. Any questions?
Can we approve those as one
Yes.
unit?
Yeah, you can do them omnibus. If there's no objection.
Do you have one, Janet, that you'd like to have?
Well, I was about the addendum to the food, for the food truck. That's for the Paint the Town Gold one only? Okay.
And they're following our ordinance.
Special events, the ordinance we passed?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stack?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Rudy?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Item G is approval of an application for the dog park located at the intersection of Schwartz Street and Olive Street. Move for approval?
Second.
We have a motion, second. Discussion?
We have a group of people who have decided to raise money in memory of Brent Lay, who was the veterinarian at Hawthorne Animal Hospital. They have agreed to raise $20,000 to complete the turf at the park and have asked for naming rights. There was discussion at the committee level what a nice memory this will be for them, and very appreciative that they're willing to raise the money.
Yeah, Dr. Lay was, as many of you know, was a beloved local veterinarian here in town, Edwardsville High School graduate, and so both his family and friends of Dr. Lay have come together and want to not only raise funds for the park, but also name it in his honor. And so as you know, this is something that requires council approval because we have an ordinance regarding naming rights.
Dr. Lay is Merrill Otwine's grandson.
Right.
It's a very generous thing, but I have concern with naming rights anymore. I really do. So,
Okay.
The application is in order. It meets the guidance of the naming rights ordinance. Policy. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments?
I just had one, I mean, a couple, I don't know, maybe about a year ago, we talked about Plummer Family Park, and then we talked about how we're gonna monetize, or kind of, to make sure it's equitable. You know, that one individual pays so much money, you know, per, I don't know, how we kind of thought about how we should kind of, you know, figure out to make sure that it's an even playing field, that each naming rights is somewhat equivalent and depending on the size of and scope of the project. So did we ever come up with a, we didn't do that?
We've not.
I think the ordinance addresses that. I mean, there's different degrees of honor, you know, an individual has bestowed on the community, either through their work or through their reputation, their contributions. Some of it is financial, some of it is physical. And in this particular instance, there was no name associated with the park. The group approached us and said, we'd like to raise funds to complete the area that we had proposed to have turf initially, grass, and now it's being converted to artificial turf. So this just came up as a question from a group, that supported this individual, and I think we're gonna see, this potentially. I mean, it's come to committee, it's coming to us. If that is a process in itself, I don't know that we can really put a monetary number on these things.
Yeah, I guess we were concerned about, making sure that everyone, that we're not just, some individual would get a better deal than another individual for the naming rights. But, I mean, I'm all for this, don't get me wrong, but I just thought, as long as it's equitable, I think I'm fine with that, so.
I think just having an ordinance and, process to go through is better than when we had 10 years ago, per se, and at least it gives the opportunity for discussion. But we definitely never put a dollar value on naming rights of this particular park. And I think in some cases, with the popularity of this individual, how he, got his education and cared, I think, there is no monetary contribution tied to it. I think it's awesome that they're considering raising money to help us out with this last phase. And it's certainly a popular park, and thanks to our park department, it looks beautiful and functions very well. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Steck?
No.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Rizziti?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Item H is the approval to purchase a 2019 Ford Explorer 4x4 through the State of Illinois Central Management Services Joint Purchasing Contract from Morrow Brothers Ford in the amount of $29,390 out of the Parks Department. Move for approval.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion?
This is for a vehicle that there was totaled in an accident, so, and it's for the Parks Department.
So is it being reimbursed for insurance, or was it a budgeted item, or, how?
The vast majority of it is covered by insurance.
All of it,
There is a
okay.
little bit that we'd have to make up because the vehicle was a few years old, and we're doing that out of the Parks Department budget. Regrettably, our Parks Director was taking his vehicle in for service, and he was in another community when he got rear-ended. Quite honestly, a high rate of speed. We're lucky that he's okay, and there isn't additional damage beyond the vehicle. So, yeah, we weren't expecting this. It wasn't
Okay.
budgeted. It just was an unfortunate accident, and we do have good insurance coverage. I think the insurance carrier is taking care of 90%. Is that accurate?
It's 24,000.
20. Okay, not quite 90, but up there. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Steck?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Rizziti?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Farrar?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Item I is informational. First item is we have the Zoning Board of Appeals minutes of 7/22/2019. And item 2 is the Cool Cities minutes of 7/18/2019. And item J is to announce the next Administrative and Community Service Committee will meet on Thursday, September 12th, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. in the Governor Edwards Conference Room. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Any old business this evening for the council? Any new business? Okay, I'd ask for a motion that we go into closed session.
I make a motion we go into closed session.
Second.
We're gonna take a break here for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll be meeting hopefully to the wee hours of the morning.